The next interesting topic that I feel deserves a little bit of attention when it comes to Windows Phone applications is that of notifications. And when I talk about notifications in this sense, I'm talking about toasts. So I'm talking about things that kind of pop up on the screen to notify your user that either something's happening within your application or in some other application that's running on the system. And typically, you're going to see those notifications pop up on the top of the screen here. So I'm going to show you an example of how you do that and customize those things as part of your own application. So as you can see here, I have a very simple application template here. I just have a normal screen here with a single button that says notify me. And as you can see, I have the XAML on the right here. This is just a simple grid with a button laid out relatively in the center. Now I've also have this set up where if you click on this, we're going to go ahead and create this toast. And I'm going to go through the process of showing you how to do that. Within the Windows infrastructure, within the Windows world, you typically have a number of different ways that you can show toasts, whether you're talking about Windows 8 or Windows Phone 8, and specifically Windows Phone 8.1. Now, built in, there are several different toast templates, but if you were to look through the documentation, you'll see that in Windows Phone 8.1, regardless of what type of toast you are specifying that you want to use, you're always going to be defaulted to the toast text 02. So very briefly, let's just see what that looks like. So this is the template that's actually going to be used when you are issuing a toast on Windows Phone 8.1. As you can see here, it has the name of toast text 02. And it has two text fields here, 1 and 2. It has the header text and it has the body text. Now what you'll be able to do within your application is be able to grab a hold of these two text fields, modify their text to whatever it is you need to do within your application, and then ultimately show this to the user. Now it's a fairly simple process, but there's a couple little things that you need to be aware of as you're going through this process that could definitely trip you up if you're not paying attention. So let's go ahead back into our code behind file, into our event handler here for our button click event, and let's start to create this toast template. So we're going to start by creating a new instance of that toast template, so we'll call this toast template. And we're going to grab the toast template type, and as you can see here, there's a number of built-in ones. We have toast image and text 1, text 2, text 3, text 4, but like I said, regardless of what you choose here, if you're running this on Windows Phone 8.1, it's always going to send you to a toast text 02, so it's basically going to do its best to take whatever information you've put in some other template and kind of mash it into this template itself. So you'd be better off just making sure you go with this particular template just to kind of avoid any sort of headache. Now what we want to do is we actually want to grab that XML. We want to grab this guy here to actually edit these fields here so we can send something meaningful to the user. So the way that we do that is we start by grabbing the XML that's in this toast template. So we'll say var toast XML, and what we're going to need to do is we're going to use a special little helper here called the Toast Notification Manager, and then we're going to use the get template content method here. And then we're going to pass in our toast template. Now what this gives us, if you hover over this for a second, it's going to give us an XML document. So now we actually have that raw XML within our toast XML, and we can start to do normal XML like link to XML or XPath queries to get what it is we want out of there so we can start to modify things. So let's go ahead and grab those two text elements that were in that template. As you can see down here, text ID 1, text ID 2. And just to keep it relatively simple, we'll go ahead and say the toast text elements. And we're going to set that equal to our toast XML, and we're actually going to get the elements by tag name and the ones that are text, just like that. So now that we have those, we can reference both of those. Since we know there's two, we'll just go ahead and directly reference them and say we're going to append a child, and we want to add in a text node. So we're going to add into our toast XML create text node, and we're going to put in here the heading text. So we're going to assume, since we're indexing this as number 0, that it's going to be the first one in here. That'll be the header text. So then we'll put in here hello there. So that'll be our header text. And then we'll go ahead and duplicate this line, and this time we're going to get the second element, and then we'll just put in here as the text, this is a sample toast. like that. So that's pretty simple. That's a very simple example. So now we have this edited the way that we want it. So now we need to actually present it to the user. So we need to create a toast. And then once again, we're going to new up an instance of the toast notification class, passing in our toast XML. As you can see here, it takes in an XML document. So now we have our toast. And now there's a few things that you can do with this toast. And in this particular instance, we're going to ultimately send this toast directly to the user. So we want them to see it right away. We want to have it pop up on the screen. Now after this, I'm going to show you another example of some way that you can kind of be a little less intrusive to the user, but still have them get this information. But just to start with, we want them to see it right away so that it can really draw their attention to our application or something that's happened within our application. So another good practice before you actually show it is to specify an expiration time. So when you specify an expiration time, what this does is this tells this toast, or it ultimately tells the toast and the Windows Phone infrastructure that how long this particular toast is going to last. And it's not how much it's or how long it's going to last on the screen, it's how much it's or how long it's going to actually last within the Action Center. And I'll show you an example of that as well. But it's just a good practice to put something in here that's reasonable, and I like to keep this pretty simple when I'm doing this. So I'm just going to say I want to specify the UTC add seconds and maybe give this 3600 just to leave it there for a little while, but so that it doesn't take too long. But you can keep it there as long as you want. You can mess around with those times a little bit to whatever makes sense for you. So ultimately, once you have your toast object created, the next thing you want to do is actually show it to the user. So we're going to use the toast notification manager. And then we're going to say I want to create a toast notifier, and then all I want to do is I want to show it, and I want to show my toast. So there you go. We've gone through the process now. We've gotten our template. We've gotten those two text elements out of it that we saw here within our sample. And then we have set the header text and the detail text. We created a new toast with that XML. We set an expiration time, and now we're going to show it to the user. So let's go ahead now and run this application with F5. And we'll see it come up here, and we'll see our little application with our little button there. And then we're going to click our button, and what we would expect to happen is a notification to pop up here on the top. But when I click this, you're going to notice you don't see anything. And I can click this as many times as I would like, but I'm not seeing anything here. So why is that? Well, this is one of those little gotchas within the Windows platform, as well as a number of other platforms, is that when you are dealing with things like this, you oftentimes have to let your application know that it needs to have access, or let the platform know that your application needs to have access to do certain things. So if I were to go into my AppX manifest now, you're going to scroll down a little bit on the application tab. You're going to notice there is a notification option here of toasts capable. So right now it's not set, which means it's just assuming that I'm not going to use toasts, but if you want to, you're going to need to change this to be yes. So now we can go ahead and save that, and now we will run our application again with F5. And this time, once it comes up, we'll click our button, and we should hopefully see a little bit more of what we were expecting. So I'll click Notify Me. Aha, and there we go. We see hello there, and this is a sample toast. And you'll see my little icon on the left there. Now, on the Windows Phone 8.1 platform, because you can only use Toast Text 02, there's no way to specify an image there. It's going to use your application image on your toast, and you really don't have a way around that. And you also see here that we have this little icon up here saying that we have a toast. Now, the way to get to that is to go up to the top of the screen and then typically touch, or in my case, click and drag down. So now what you're going to see here is the Action Center, and in here underneath notifications now we have our little toast, and you can see here it was what time it was sent, and it has the header and the detailed text. Now what you can do then ultimately within your application, but we're not really doing much in this case, is you can click on that or tap that and it will take you back to your application. Now once you've done that, you have now gotten rid of your notification and it is gone forever. So I could do that a couple times. I could click a bunch of times and we'll see this thing pop up here like this, and I'll get a bunch of different notifications. Now, that brings up an interesting point, is that if you're going through the process of creating this application and you have something running in the background, maybe a stock ticker or something that the user is going to want to get notifications from, you're going to get ultimately a lot of notifications. So if I were to come in here, you'll see I have a bunch of the same notification, and that can be incredibly annoying. So there is a way around that, and I'm going to show you that here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and shut down our application, and let's see a little bit of a way that we can tweak our application. So let's say we don't want the user to see that pop up every single time something happens, because that takes up precious real estate on your screen, and it ultimately could annoy the user to keep seeing those things pop up over and over again. So the way that you handle that is by sending those notifications directly to the Action Center, not necessarily showing them on the screen all the time. So the way that we do that is by a simple property on our toast. We'll go into toast and we're going to say I want to suppress pop-up, and we'll set that to true. So ultimately what that's going to do is it's going to stop that notification bar from popping up at the top of the screen. So let's go ahead and hit F5. We'll run our application again. And now once we click our button, we'll click it, and now we just see the little icon pop up here. We don't get that annoying little screen, but I can click this a couple different times, and ultimately if I go into my Action Center now, I still see I have a bunch of these things going on in here, which is definitely a little annoying and something that we don't want to do. And so I'm still like hanging on to a lot of these notifications from the last time that I ran my application. So we can definitely start to clean this up a little bit so that it's not so overbearing and annoying to the end user. So let's go ahead and clear all of these. Okay, so now we'll come back into our application. We'll stop debugging. So now the next thing we want to look into is now, yes, I'm sending them just to the Action Center, and I don't necessarily have to annoy the user all the time, but I'm still running into the problem where if I'm sending similar notifications to the user, they're going to see all of them in their Action Center, and that can be very annoying, especially if they're very similar notifications. So maybe I would like to group those things together and allow them to get access to those in a better way, or to see only the most recent of a related series of notifications. And the way that we do that is via tags and groupings. So what we're going to do now is we're suppressing this pop-up. But what I would also like to do is that I would also like to assign a couple different ways to refer to these toasts. So I can come in here and I can say I want to specify that this particular thing that's happening is going to be associated with a tag, and we're going to say that this notification that's popping up is going to be having a tag of, say, WinPhone. So this is the tag that I'm going to associate this particular toast with. Now on different portions of your application this could change. You could specify it to be something else, but this is just a very brief example. Now I can also select a group for this particular notification or this toast, and in this case I'm going to call this Tuts Plus. So now what we've done is we've ultimately created a way for us to get access to different toasts via tags and groups. Now the tag just allows you to have a way to get a reference to that particular toast should you want to go back and get it programmatically, or maybe even remove it from the Action Center if it's no longer relevant. Group is what's going to allow us to actually show just the most recent of our actions or toasts within the Action Center. So let's go ahead and run our application again so we can take a look at how that works. So let's hit F5. And once this pops up, we're going to click Notify Me again. We clicked it once, and we see that we got our little toast, and we can come into our Action Center, and here it is right here. But now if I were to come back into my application, and you can see it's still there, we'll click this a bunch more times, and we'll see that we got our little notification up here. But if I go into my Action Center, I still only have one, and that's because of that whole grouping and tagging concept where it's only going to show me the most recent of the toasts that are associated to that particular group. So that's kind of a nice feature there. So then if we had some other operation running and we wanted to actually get rid of those toasts, we could come in here and go into our toast notification manager, and we could actually dig into our history, and this is what's going to allow us to see all those toasts that we've sent so far. And then we can start to remove things. And in this case, let's say we wanted to remove anything that was associated with WinPhone as a tag and in the group Tuts Plus. So then obviously you wouldn't do this in a situation like this where you would create it and then remove it right away, but you can at least see how you would do that if you were going down the process of maybe wanting to get rid of notifications for whatever reason, maybe because they're stale or they don't need to be there anymore or there's other relevant content. But that's the basic concept or the basic idea behind these Toast notifications and how to use them within your Windows Phone 8.1 application.